It's bitterly cold, but Lisa and her family try to stay outside as long as possible, because it's better than going back to their cramped hotel room. There aren't many places to walk to. The hotel is beside this hectic dual carriageway, with the traffic constantly roaring by.
How long have you been in a hotel for?
More than 2 months.
That must be tough.
Yes.
Lisa is 17 and at college, her younger sister just 1. Along with their mum, Irina, they fled the fighting in Mykolaiv, settling in Birmingham under the Homes for Ukraine scheme. But 2 months ago, as the cost of living crisis gripped, their host simply couldn't afford to host them anymore.
How are you finding it, all of you being stuck in one hotel room?
We are living in one room, and I need to do my homework, but my younger sister sometimes a little bit crazy and naughty, so this is hard for us, and we don't have any kitchen or something like that, so a washing machine.
Ну, сначала было психологически очень тяжело. Прям очень мы были все на срывах, как бы срывались, потому что такая обстановка, как бы, ну, конечно, мы украинцы, мы привыкаем ко всему, поэтому.
What do you miss about being in Ukraine?
Ну, скучаем за родителями, за друзьями.
Really miss parents and friends.
The family aren't alone in their situation. For months, local authorities say they've been warning the government that a crisis was coming.
There's been a huge increase in the number of Ukrainian refugees now facing homelessness. Around 3,000 have contacted their council to say they have nowhere to live. And that number could be much higher because it isn't mandatory for local authorities to report the figures.
In recognition of the difficulties, the government recently announced that the monthly payments for host families will increase, but there are still gaps in the provision. The payments will rise from £350 a month to £500 a month, but only once their refugee guests have been here for 1 year, which means none will yet qualify for the extra money. At the same time, the government is cutting the money it gives to councils for helping Ukrainian refugees by almost half, from £10,500 to £5,900. Simone Schefman is a volunteer coordinator for Ukrainians in Birmingham. She says as more refugees become homeless, there's a huge pressure on social housing in the city, and it's far more expensive to pay for hotels than to pay hosts.
Not only is it a warmer, softer and friendlier solution to fleeing a war, to live with a host, providing it's working, but on an economic level, it's also significantly cheaper than any other housing arrangement.
The electricity went up by a lot. You know, running the heater, I'm sure, cost a chunk. That was a lot higher than it was last year.
Flicking through energy bills which had more than doubled when Matthew Vaughan welcomed a Ukrainian family into his home.
It was hard. I mean, this lady and her son came from a war zone, and we wanted to make them feel, some sort of place where they could sort of heal and recover from all that trauma. But we just could not afford to heat our house to the level that they were expecting it to be heated at, like it is in Ukraine during the winter normally.
Their finances strained, the Vaughans had to make the difficult decision to ask their guests to leave at the end of the 6-month placement.
There have been calls for the payment to be doubled from £350 a month to £700. Would that have helped you?
Yeah, I think it would have. I mean, money shouldn't be the motive. It should be trying to help people. But it does cost. And the £350, when it was announced, with the rate things have gone up since then, that doesn't buy the same amount it did back in February.
The government told us that they're grateful to all sponsors, which is why they're increasing payments once the guest has been here for a year, and that councils have received £1.1 billion through the Homes for Ukrainians scheme. Lisa and her family have no idea how long they'll have to wait for a new home.
So your first Christmas will be stuck in a hotel room here?
Yes. Sounds bad, but hopefully it will be good Christmas for us because we're together.
Like thousands of other families promised sanctuary in the UK, they're now facing an anxious and uncertain new year.